Elon Musk. You know the name. You've definitely heard of the companies, but if you look past all the headlines, all the controversy, there's this incredible story of ambition, disruption, and power that has totally reshaped entire industries. So, okay, let's dive into this three-act drama of how one man built a modern empire.
And it all leads to a number that's, well, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. As of early 2024, his net worth was getting close to $850 billion. That's not just money, it's a force of nature. It's enough power to buy massive companies, influence wars, and literally shoot for the stars.
Which brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. How did he actually do it? How do you get from online payments to planting colonies on Mars and controlling what's basically the world's town square? To figure that out, we have to go all the way back to the beginning.
All right, Act 1, the digital disruptor. This is where it all starts. This is Musk cutting his teeth during the dot-com boom, learning the rules of the game and, spoiler alert, making his first fortune.
So he was born in South Africa, and in 1995, he lands in Silicon Valley, ready to start a PhD in applied physics at Stanford. And he lasted a grand total of 2 days. That's it. The pull of the internet gold rush was just too strong to ignore. He dropped out, and with that one decision, the path of his life and a few major industries was changed forever.
What's just wild here is the speed. Look at this. 1995, he co-founds a company called Zip2. Just 4 years later, he sells it and walks away a millionaire. He immediately takes that cash and pours it into his next thing, X.com, which pretty quickly merges and becomes the PayPal we all know. And by 2002, only 7 years after starting his first company, eBay comes along and that deal turns into a truly life-changing amount of money.
And this is the number that really matters, about $172 million. For most people on the planet, that's the end of the story, right? You've won. But for Musk, this was just the beginning. This was the seed money he needed to stop just building things with code and start building things with metal, like rockets and cars.
And that catapults us right into Act 2, the industrial titan. With all that PayPal money in his pocket, he pivots from the digital world to the physical one. And he doesn't pick easy targets. He goes after two of the toughest, most expensive industries out there, aerospace and cars.
And his goal was, it was literally out of this world. He wasn't just trying to build a slightly better rocket. He was trying to change the entire future of humanity. He said it himself. He wanted to make Mars feel less like sci-fi and more like a real place we could actually go.
So how in the world did he plan to do that? Well, there's this really interesting academic idea that helps explain his strategy, entrepreneuring as emancipation. Basically, it means true disruption isn't just about playing the game better. It's about looking at the rules everyone else is following and deciding to just break them. You find what's holding an industry back and you systematically break free from it.
And believe me, back in the early 2000s, the aerospace industry had some massive constraints. People thought space was kind of boring. The only way to launch affordably was on Russian rockets. And the biggest one? The idea that you build a billion-dollar rocket, use it once, and then just throw it away in the ocean. Musk saw this list not as a bunch of problems, but as a to-do list for a revolution.
So in 2002, he put his money where his mouth was. He took $100 million of his own cash from the PayPal sale and started a company called SpaceX. The goal was simple but crazy: build the rockets himself and smash every single one of those constraints.
And this timeline, wow, it just shows you what happened. It was not an easy start. You can see the early launch failures right there, but he just kept going. And you see these incredible turning points, like making it to orbit in 2008, docking with the space station, and then the big one, becoming the first private company ever to send NASA astronauts into orbit in 2020. He had totally freed spaceflight from the old way of thinking. And here's the thing. He wasn't just doing this in space. He took that exact same playbook, that idea of emancipation, to the car industry. He jumped in as CEO of a little struggling startup called Tesla in 2008, right in the middle of a global financial meltdown, mind you, with the goal of breaking our dependency on fossil fuels. And that brings us to the third and most current act in his story, the global influencer. This is the part where building companies that change industries turns into wielding direct, personal, and often very controversial global power.
And the absolute centerpiece of this act has to be this number, $44 billion. The jaw-dropping price he paid to take over what he called the world's de facto public square, the social media platform we all knew as Twitter.
And the changes were not subtle. They were immediate and they were radical. He fired the top execs, laid off thousands of people, and just completely flipped the entire business model and its rules upside down. Then, he rebranded the whole thing as X, with this grand vision of making it an everything app. It was his most aggressive disruption by far.
And this is really why it all matters so much now. His influence isn't just about the economy anymore, it's geopolitical. I mean, through his control of the Starlink satellite network, his personal choices have directly affected what happens on the battlefield in the war in Ukraine. It's a crazy example of how the power of a single CEO can now actually rival the power of a country.
Which leads us to the final act, or maybe the one that's still being written. Because as his power has grown, the way people see him has completely fractured, and it's created this huge debate. Is this guy a visionary or a villain?
You know, his supporters will point to quotes just like this one, from back when SpaceX was failing over and over. They see a guy with just unbelievable grit, someone willing to risk every single penny he had on these huge, humanity-changing goals. To them, he's a true visionary.
But for a lot of other people, that whole story has gone sour. What they used to see as vision now looks more like unchecked power. His behavior online, his political moves, it's led critics to see his influence as chaotic and sometimes even dangerous.
And honestly, nothing shows this shift better than his politics. You look back to 2017 and he's quitting a White House council on principle because he disagrees about the Paris Climate Accord. Fast forward to the 2024 election, and he's become a key advisor and a huge financial supporter for that very same politician. It's a contradiction that's right at the heart of this whole debate about who he really is now.
So what is he? An innovator? A disruptor? Or something else we don't even have a name for yet? His journey from a software kid to an industrial titan to a global influencer is undeniable, that's for sure. But what it all means for the rest of us, well, that's a question that's getting more complicated every single day.